Hi friends, welcome to Art with Mrs. Russell. I'm Mrs. Russell. I teach at 6 different elementary schools in our city. Today I want to introduce you to a famous artist who lived through some hard times, but he made art that changed the way we look at art and the way we do art from now on. His name is Henri Matisse, and I'm going to share this book with you so you'll get to know him a little bit better. It's called Drawing with Scissors. Henri was born in France in 1869. He lived with his parents who owned and ran a general store. Henri's dad really wanted Henri to be a lawyer. And Henri went to work for a law office for a while, but he was so bored that he ended up drawing flowers on the law papers. You're not supposed to do that. Henri, when he in his 20s, got very, very sick. He was in bed for a long time, and his mom got him a set of paints. That did it for Henri. From then on, he knew that he had to be an artist. Henri's dad said, "But you'll starve." Henri didn't care. He knew he must be an artist. This is one of the first paintings that Henri Matisse did. Notice how dark it is and how everything in it is perfectly real. You can definitely tell what those things are. Look at one of his last paintings that he did later in life. I bet you can't tell what that is, but don't worry, I couldn't either until I read the title. Look at the motion of these squares that are cut out. Can you tell yet? I'll give you another clue. It's a snail. Look at the motion that this snail makes. I bet some people would look at these pictures and think that the one that was done last was really done first because Henri didn't even know how to draw. But that's not the truth. Henri knew how to draw and paint beautifully, but his art and he himself continued to evolve and change throughout the years until his art was almost not recognizable as being done by the same person who did the first thing. Henri did go to art school in Paris. He didn't really like what the teachers were teaching them because they taught him to do the kind of art that everyone had always done. Very, very traditional. Henri finally met a really great teacher who said, "Try painting with your imagination." Well, that's all Henri needed to hear. He began painting using bright colors and broad brush strokes. This is something he did in his early years as an artist learning to paint. It's a still life, and the fruit is much, much brighter than the original painting that we looked at. Henri got so imaginative one time that he and his friends started using a lot of weird colors. This is Henri's wife. He painted her face green and her orange lips and her neck were orange. I wonder how she felt about being portrayed in that way. Well, guess what? The people didn't like it, and Henri hardly sold any paintings at that time. And actually, one person even said, "Those paintings look like they were done by wild beasts." Well, that didn't even hurt Henri Matisse's feelings. He and his friends laughed and began calling themselves the Fauves. Fauve means wild beasts in French. Well, Henri didn't paint as a fauve for very many years because he wasn't making any money. In fact, he was not making enough money to even feed his family, and he had to move back in with his parents. I wonder if his dad said, "I told you so." But soon Henri became more famous and more recognized and began selling more paintings. And by the time he was in his 40s, he was a very well recognized and popular painter and was able to buy a house outside of Paris. He also began to travel a lot, and his travels introduced him to lots of new places with new colors, new shapes, new patterns. When he was in Africa, he did these paintings. Notice the bright shapes and colors. Look at this one. This is a painting of Henri's view from his window. He painted lots of things with a view from a window. Have you ever tried painting from your window? I think it would be fun. Why don't you try it? As Henri Matisse got more and more famous, people began to hire him to do paintings for special places in their homes and in their businesses. That's called commissioned artwork. And Henri was very good at it, and he began making lots of money. As he really grew older, another thing happened to him that he didn't prepare. No one can prepare for. When he was in his 70s, he became very ill and had to have a serious operation. He had cancer, and he was so weak that he couldn't get out of bed and paint. He had lots of assistants who were there to help him, though, and he figured out another way to do art that he might be most famous for of any of his artwork. He began to use scissors. He had his assistants paint the paper the colors that he liked to use, and he used the scissors to cut out the shapes that he was wanting to use in his art, and he had his assistants pin them up on the wall until they were exactly the way he wanted them. Then they took them down and put them on paper and pasted them to paper. Here's one of the paintings that's very famous from this period of time in Henri Matisse's life. It's leaves. Oh, it seems like it would be so easy to do a bunch of cutouts of leaves and make them into a beautiful piece of artwork. It just doesn't seem like there would be anything to it. But wait until you try. There's a whole lot more to it. And this is a famous and beautiful piece of artwork. While Henri was doing his cutouts, he also did a book of 20 beautiful cutouts. It was called Jazz. And even though jazz is an art term, a music term, Henri used it as an art term to express his feelings about his art. Henri was old and sick, but he kept on working. His daughter said that he worked until the day he died, and some of his last works are the most graceful and beautiful of them all. Henri died on November 5th, 1954. He was almost 85 years old, and he had been an artist for more than 60 years. He made paintings and sculptures and drawings and costumes for ballet and stained glass windows and even paper cutouts and books. Henri was hardly ever happy with his own artwork, but his hope was that it made other people feel happy. It does, Henri. Thank you. I would like to show you some ways that we could possibly do some artwork in the style of Henri Matisse. Henri used what he had and what he was able to do with, and we're having to do some of the same things. The first thing I want you to do is pick some paper as your background. I picked yellow paper. It could be white. It could be any color. Is that the way? Okay. This is yellow. I happen to have several kinds of paper at my house because I've collected many kinds of paper over the years. You might not have all of this at your house at your disposal because we didn't know we were coming home without our art supplies, did we? I have some old construction paper of many colors. Oh, I'm sorry. Some of it's kind of faded out, but that's okay. I can use that. But what if I didn't? What if I just had some white paper and some crayons? I took some white paper and I colored my whole sheet, and then I drew some leaves. I'm just going to try to do leaves like Henri did. So I just drew the leaves I wanted on my colored paper, and guess what? I have scissors. What if you don't have any scissors? How could you do this? Well, here's what you could do. You could tear. This is called a collage, when you put pieces of paper together and you glue them together and you make artwork with them. This can be a torn paper collage, which is in itself an art form. So you can tear out your shapes if you do not have scissors to cut them with. We're going to make something beautiful and creative just like Henri did. And I think he would be very proud of us for using our creativity in this time. Well, you can use either glue or you can use tape, whatever you happen to have, to tape down your artwork. I've got tape on mine right now. Here's a torn paper leaf. Here's a cutout leaf. Here's some different shapes of leaves that I've cut out. I'm not going to make you watch me do all my drawing and cutting out. You know how to do that, and I'd like for you to use your own creativity. I'm using leaves simply because that's what Henri Matisse did, and I just thought it would be fun to do, but you can use any shape. You can use random shapes like squares and circles. You can use flowers. I can imagine you doing dragons and mermaids and butterflies with all these kinds of shapes that you put together. Anyway, this is no Matisse, but I think that Henri would be proud that we were doing something using our imagination in his honor. Okay, one more thing I want to say to you. I want to say this. I'm sorry. We could take a lesson from Henri's life and look at it and see how it could apply to ours. Henri Matisse found out that his life was not always in his control. He never planned to get so sick at 20 years old that he had to stay in bed for a long time. He certainly never planned to get cancer as an older man and have to depend on his assistants to create his art. He certainly never wanted to give up his paintbrush and trade it in for scissors because he was too weak to stand up and paint. But many people would have said, I didn't plan this. That's not fair. I quit. But Henri Matisse did not quit. He continued to make and create art until the last day on this earth. Many people have been saying lately, I didn't plan to stay home from school. I didn't plan not to hug my teachers goodbye. I didn't plan not to get to see my grandparents and my cousins real often right now. Well, guess what? I didn't either. But here we are. Let's take a lesson from Matisse's life. He continued to create and do what he was meant to do until the last days. Let's continue to do the things that we were meant to do. Let's smile and laugh and love and create. That's exactly what we're meant to do right now. I love you, and I can't wait to see the things that you've created and the things that you've drawn with scissors. Bye-bye.